Hello. Today we are gathered here for a bit of a special video. I haven't done like a sit down chatty video in a while and I really like filming these. So I wanted to take you guys through my whole art book collection. Yeah, last year I kind of realized like I don't own any art books. And so I made it kind of a point every time I went out to like a bookstore or something to sort of get something I liked and sort of build my collection. And within the past year I had gathered quite a few that I really love. I thought it would be fun to just take you through them all, kind of talk about why I like them so much and how I use them to be inspired. I found that like art books are so useful when I'm not feeling super good, super inspired. They just help me feel more motivated, and I don't know, for some reason like when I go on Pinterest, it just doesn't have the same effect as like flipping through an art book does for me. Also, a bit of a disclaimer, when I say art books, I don't have any like tutorial books like, oh, how to shade or how to do whatever. They're just books like about art or are like graphic novels, are collections of other artists' work, and children's books. So if you're looking for like recommendations on like how to paint, and you will not find that here. It's more so like books that are art, not books about how to make the art. Also, if I seem quite like sweaty, it's because I am. Today it is 93 degrees out and the AC is not on, so if I like start getting more and more like dewy as the video goes on, just please ignore that. Okay, let's get into it. The first book I want to talk about, I bought this at Kinokuniya. They probably still have it. I find that their stock stays pretty consistent. It's called an 80s girly magazine ad collection. Kinokuniya has a lot of books like this. I saw one that I really wanted to get all about like Sanrio ads from I think the 70s. So next time I see that book, I'm probably gonna get it. And I find the design just so inspiring. The color palettes in all of these ads look so cool. They also have a lot of really cool illustrations and the layouts are super inspiring. It's also just so cute, like the title says, and the book itself is divided into different kinds of ads. So there's like stationery advertisements, clothes advertisements, makeup advertisements, food. There's even a Sanrio section. If I'm ever feeling a little bit uninspired, I love flipping through this just because the color palettes are so cool. I love the layouts and design. I think there's a lot to learn just from looking at these layouts. I feel like in my own work, I have to do like sometimes more graphic elements, especially if I'm working on like shop stuff, things that are like marketing materials in themselves, like those little Instagram posts that I make that show like all my new products. Product photos themselves, sometimes I want to dress them up a bit. So just seeing how they adorn, I guess, product photos is really cool. This next one is called New Retro Illustration. I got this recently at Gallery Nucleus in Alhambra. If you're in LA or the SoCal area, I highly recommend you check out Gallery Nucleus because they just have such a great selection of art books and indie comics. Recently, I went to New York City to try to like buy a lot of art books and like have like more material to show you guys for this video. I guess I just got kind of spoiled by having Gallery Nucleus so close to me. Because their art book selection is just really wonderful. And it just has a lot of like new stuff. Yeah, so I guess it's just talking about like the retro illustration that has been like reimagined in our like present day. But it's a really cool book. When I flipped through this at Gallery Nucleus, I was like, oh my god, I need to have this. It was also the last one there, so I was very happy to have picked it up. But the illustrations in this are just so pretty. The color palettes are so cool, very vibrant. And yeah, every time I flip through this, I just get really inspired. All the text is in Japanese, so I cannot read it, but it's okay because the illustrations speak for themselves. I love looking at all of the line work, and something you'll probably hear me say throughout like this whole video is like, I love looking for the color palettes, but it's true. Like flipping through this and just seeing all the ways that artists use different color combinations is just so cool. Next, I want to talk about this book. I also got this at Gallery Nucleus. I got this, The Art of Heikala, Works and Thought. I'm a big fan of this artist. I'm sure all of you know who heikala is. She is an incredible artist and she does everything traditionally, which is so astonishing to me. If you've seen any of her like process videos on Instagram, you'll know that it's just so incredible. And I really love this book. Some art book collections are just like an artist's illustrations, but this book is really cool because it has different sections about like her upbringing and her art education, as well as like what supplies she uses, a lot of like her, like how she gets ideas behind illustrations, the storytelling aspect that's in her work, techniques and approaches. She talks about like her whole sketching process. There's a couple pages in here that are just like her sketches, and it's really, really cool to see what her sketchbook looks like. She also talks about like how she develops her line work, how she makes her color palettes, the scanning process, because as a primarily digital artist, I don't really think a lot about like how to digitize traditional work, and I know there's like a huge world of like knowing how to use your scanner properly. Some artists prefer to photograph, and she has a little section all about that, which I think would be really useful for a lot of traditional artists. She talks about like developing her art style, and she also has a section all about designing products, which is really cool. So yeah, this book is just very like rich. And in the back, there's like a step-by-step watercolor process. I highly recommend this book. If you're a fan of heikala, it's a really beautiful book that not just has her illustrations, but like I said, like a lot of depth into her process and who she is as an artist. So very, very wonderful book. It's also gorgeous. Like, just look at this book. It's beautiful. This next book I talked about quite recently, so I'm not gonna talk about it that much just in case you've watched that video, but I recently found this book. This is The Art of Totoro. It is all completely in Chinese. I can read a little bit of Chinese, but my level is not enough that I can like read and understand this book, but it's okay because the pictures speak for themselves. It's a beautiful art book that just shows like the process of making Totoro. Like a lot of his traditional pencil and watercolor sketches are in here. A lot of like the floor plans for the house. It has a lot of the storyboard as well for Totoro, and it's just so cool to see because it was all done traditionally, and yeah, just very, very, very beautiful, beautiful book. Totoro is also, I think, my favorite Miyazaki movie. I really do like Spirited Away, of course, Howl's Moving Castle, but I think because I watched Totoro so much as a kid, it just has such a like special place in my heart. So very, very happy I own this, and I would highly recommend it if you are a Studio Ghibli fan. Before we go any further, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Epidemic Sound. I'm super excited to be working with them because I have been a very happy customer for like the past 3 years. So I'm gonna hand it off to me from the future to take it away. They have an enormous library of so many songs, so many sound effects to choose from, and they're also like really good quality songs and sound effects. They also add new tracks to their library every single week, so there's always like new stuff coming out, which is really cool. They have different licenses you can choose from. I am on their personal plan, and this plan is perfect for content creators like me. You can add one channel per several different platforms, so I use it for Instagram, for YouTube, but you can also use it for your Twitch channel, podcast, Facebook if you use that. The feeling of working super, super hard on a video and getting a copyright strike is so terrible. It can be so frustrating, but with Epidemic Sound, I never have to worry about that. I never have to worry about my video being demonetized or getting flagged for not having the right license. You can click on the link in the description to get a 30-day free trial. And another thing I absolutely love about Epidemic Sound is the songs that you use during your free trial. After it ends, those songs in those videos will still be protected. So you don't have to worry about like what happens after your trial ends and you cancel, which I think is really, really cool. Thank you so much to Epidemic Sound, and let's get back to all of the books. All right, next we're gonna talk about graphic novels. I haven't really talked about this a lot, but I have been trying to increase my graphic novel collection and just like read more graphic novels in general because I kind of want to make a graphic novel. In the future, I think it'd be really cool to make one. It is such a huge and daunting process, and I have no idea how the publishing industry works, how I would even go about getting like a graphic novel deal and like getting them produced. And also like I make comics, but I make like very simple 4-panel, just like very basic comics. So I never thought that like making a graphic novel was something that I could do because I just make like very readable Instagram comics. But honestly, like I don't think it's impossible for me to make a graphic novel. I also think a lot of comic artists will produce collections of their comics, and I have one to show you as well. So it's not something that I think is impossible for me to do within like the next 5 years or so. And I've always wanted to make something that is more longer form. I think the comics I make for Instagram are super fast, and I think it would be really cool to tell like a longer story, and I've been getting so inspired by some of the graphic novels I've been reading lately. So this book, which is called This One Summer by Jillian and Mariko Tamaki, it is like a coming of age graphic novel about two girls that go to like the same beach town every summer. It just talks about like their friendship and their relationship as they're growing older. I haven't read it in a while, so I'm probably not describing it in the best way, but it talks about like family drama, but also just like the feeling of like growing up and being on summer break, and I don't know, it's a very meaningful book, and it was really, really beautiful. Super, super gorgeous illustrations in this. I love Jillian Tamaki. I'm a huge fan of her. I love how it's just one single tone, but all of the panels and the frames are so expressive. She uses like this really beautiful brushwork, and the lines are all like, the line weight varies, so it's just extremely expressive. She has these pages where it's just like super basic brushwork that just shows like the ocean waves. It's just so beautiful. And the storytelling is also really wonderful. It's also very readable. I don't know, I feel like I can get a little bit picky when I'm reading graphic novels. Like if the text is like too small, or if the panels are really tiny and there's a lot of detail in every frame, I find like my brain just doesn't like process it very well, and I'm like, oh, reading this is kind of difficult. I don't know if that's just like a me thing. Let me know if you feel the same way. I find that like these kinds of graphic novels are really easy for like my eyes to digest. Next is a book I read literally 2 days ago. It is called In Limbo by Deb J.J. Lee. They are an extremely talented illustrator, and I didn't know that they made this graphic novel. My friend Tiffany, shout out Tiffany if you're watching this, she recommended this to me like a long time ago, and I finally like just picked it up. I cried several times reading this. I'll just read you the description because it's better than like what I could do. Ever since Deborah Lee's family emigrated from South Korea to the United States, she's felt her otherness. For a while, her English wasn't perfect. Her teachers can't pronounce her Korean name. Her face and her eyes, especially her eyes, feel wrong. In high school, everything gets harder. Friendships change and end. She falls behind in classes, and fights with her mom escalate. Caught in limbo with nowhere safe to go, Deb finds her mental health plummeting, resulting in a suicide attempt. But Deb is resilient and slowly heals with the help of art and self-care, guiding her to a deeper understanding of her heritage and herself. So yeah, definitely I would look up maybe like a list of trigger warnings before reading this, because it is a bit of a heavy book. It is a beautiful book and super meaningful, and also has like lighthearted moments in it as well, but it does have some dark themes. So like if any of those topics are triggering for you, skip this one. If not, I would really recommend this. If you grew up Asian American, you will find this, I'm sure you will find this relatable in some aspect. I found it extremely relatable, and yeah, it was just so beautifully done. I think it's made with pencil because the lines are just so fine, and there's just such beautiful texture in it. Some of the frames, when I was reading this, I just like stared at it for like a really long time, but something about the environments and the backgrounds they drew are just so pretty. I want to show you this panel of their bedroom as like the sun comes up, and the way that they just did light with just like one tone, with what looks like one tone of pencil, is just so cool. It also has a lot of really good themes about like friendship and forgiveness, and like whether or not people can choose to forgive us, or whether or not we choose to forgive other people. This is more of a comic. I wouldn't call this a graphic novel. This is more of a comic. This is by one of my most favorite painters slash illustrators slash artists ever. Her name's Charlotte May. If you've never heard of Charlotte May, pause the video, go on Instagram, go on your computer and type Charlotte May in and look at her art. So pretty. She's really inspired me as an artist. I'm sure if you look at my art, you maybe can tell like the influence she's had on me, but just like the way she uses color and just like breaks down shapes is really inspiring. So when I found out she made a comic, I had to get it. This was published by Shortbox Comics, which is an independent publisher that's based in the UK. I highly recommend going to Shortbox's website and just looking at the indie comics that they have on there, because they have a lot of really cool like up and coming comics that you might not find in like a bookstore and stuff, and it's really cool. They also, I think, have an application where you can like apply to get your work published by them. In terms of like the publishing world, like it does make, I think, comics more accessible, and I just find like small independent presses like this really, really cool. So yeah, they're doing very, very good work, and I feel like that's where you can find like the fresh stuff. But yeah, this book is really, really cute. It tells the story of this girl named Pipette and her dog Dudley. It's really, really cute. If you read it, you will smile and you will chuckle to yourself. And the illustrations are also beautiful. It looks like she painted this by hand, I'm pretty sure. Because a lot of the textures, I'm like, I don't know how you would do this traditionally. It looks traditional. And yeah, if I'm ever feeling uninspired, a quick flip through this just like gets me like so motivated. Rover, come here. It's okay. He hasn't made an on-camera appearance yet. Say hi, Rover. He doesn't like when I film and the doors close. He's just like, keep this open. Like if I'm ever like about to paint, I like to kind of flip through this just to like look at all the nice textures. The shapes are fun. And like I said before, the colors, the color palettes in this are just so, so cool. I think she has another one coming out soon, and I'm really, really excited to read it. The next book I want to talk about is this book called Weird to Exist by Allison Zai. I'm sure you know who this artist is. I have seen their comics on my Instagram. Like I started following them, I think, like even before I started illustrating. Their comics are just so funny. It's rare. Like I think when I'm like scrolling, I'm reading stuff, I'll see something that's funny, I'll be like, haha, you know, but like these comics make me like actually LOL. If you're a fan of their work, I highly recommend getting this book. It's just kind of nice to just like appreciate the comic when it's printed rather than like on Instagram. I can't explain it. And there's a couple ones of these that I haven't seen on the gram either. So yeah, it's just a really, really nice collection of her comics. There is a longer form comic in here that's like a couple pages called Be Real, which I think is funny. But there are a lot of ones that are just like a couple panels, and I think that's really good for me to like remind myself that it's like totally possible and acceptable and fun to make like super short comics too. Now that I've said like, oh, I want to make a graphic novel one day, I think I feel a little bit more pressure too to make like 10 frame long comics that all have some like super deep, meaningful message. But it's also just so nice to have a reminder that like comics can be like 2 panels, they can make someone giggle, and it doesn't have to be any deeper than that. I love this, and I love this artist so much. We're gonna talk about 2 children's books. I want to get more children's books, honestly. I feel like I don't own enough. These are 2 books that have been sent by my actual art friends, and I'm just so honored to know them and to have their work. This one is by Anusha. She wrote That's Not My Name. I'm sure a lot of you know who Anusha is. She goes by Foxville Art on Instagram. This is a book that she wrote and also illustrated herself. And it's just so, so cute and very meaningful. The illustrations are just so, so pretty. Anusha's style is just like chef's kiss. Yeah, it's just like a really, really great book. And even though I'm an adult, like I enjoy this very much. And if I ever meet a little kid, maybe I'll give this to them. I don't know, maybe not. I kind of want to keep it for myself. The next book I want to talk about that I showed also recently in a past video, it's called I Want to Be Spaghetti. It was illustrated by my friend Claudia Lamb, aka The Forest Mori, and it was written by Kiara Wright Reese. And yeah, it's about a packet of ramen that wants to be spaghetti, and then I'm sure you can guess how it ends, but it's just really, really cute. And Claudia's illustrations are just so beautiful and so fun. Yeah, it's just so special. And the minute I flip through this, like I can tell that Claudia did this. It's just like her color palettes are so fun, and the expressions on everything is so cute. And I think both of them just did such a good job, and I really, really enjoyed reading this. Those are all the books. Definitely excited to expand my collection more. If you have any recommendations for books like the ones I touched upon in this video, like books that are like art collections, as well as graphic novels especially. Would love graphic novel recommendations. Please leave them in the comments. Would love to get any recs from you guys, because I know you all have the intel on what's good out there. That's it for this video, a bit of a shorter one. I hope you still enjoyed, and yeah, I'll catch you guys super soon in my next one.